Now, we are at Kingfisher Nest Hotel, and I'm so excited to dive into these three gentlemen. To start off, we have Billion Ojiwa, who founded Ficha Uchi, which is an initiative that allows young children to go to school with their dignity and confidence intact because they don't have to worry about their school uniform. But I won't share everything. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about his story. Welcome, Billion.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's such an honor to have you here and to get to hear your story. So maybe let's start off by hearing a little bit about your childhood. Would you say that you were always called to help those around you?
Not really, but I grew up in a family where my father was a primary school teacher, and I grew up closely with my grandmother after my parents separated. And all the time, my grandmother had visitors all the time.
Okay.
So that one was one of the things that I saw. She had a big heart. And I think some of the things that I'm doing, it's just to honor the things that she started.
Oh, so you were surrounded by people who are welcoming and giving,
yes,
and thinking of others. That's beautiful. So how did this idea come to you?
I work closely with children. I grew up in Madare slums, so most of us went to school with torn school uniforms. But that did not spark this. I work closely with children in Madare, and one day a parent approached me and said, "I know you love kids. I know you care about kids, but there's a situation in Uruma Primary School. There are girls going to school with torn school uniforms. Please, can you provide the 5 girls with uniforms?"
Why did that parent think to come to you?
Because I have a foundation in Madare that works closely with children. So there's no single child in Madare that doesn't know Billion. Yeah, so I think that was the drive, because we provide scholarship for the kids in our foundation. So we care much about education and the well-being of the children. Yeah, so when I went to Uruma Primary School, because I have a network of university students from Madare, that our main role is to look at issues in the community and look for possible solutions for those issues. So when I went to Uruma Primary School, the picture of me growing up and seeing my peers going through that stigma and being, and people laughing at them, came, and I said, I'm not just gonna provide uniforms for the 5 kids. I'm going to try look for solutions for more than the 5 kids that we have.
And to date, I think you've got 4,200 kids who have been able to have a sense of dignity restored because you're able to provide school uniform. So tell us a little bit about Ficha Uchi. What is it?
Ficha Uchi is an initiative of young people that I founded that helps restore dignity, confidence, and self-esteem to our children in schools. So I work closely with the university students who are our volunteers. So the university students do communication, they do research, they do marketing and all that. Then we work with community tailors. So we just don't buy uniforms and take to the kids.
Oh, okay.
So if we want to do, for example, give uniforms in Nyahururu, a school that has a need, we engage the community tailors around Nyahururu.
Oh.
So what we do is just buy the materials, we take to the tailors in Nyahururu, so that there's that sense of connection with the community. Yeah. And we don't just make uniforms, we make uniforms as the kids watch the uniforms make. So we have a full day of fun, and we have 50 or 30 tailors lined up making uniforms.
Wow.
So that the kids, sometimes we blame the children for not taking care of the uniforms, but they don't know the work that goes into making those uniforms. Yeah, so we wanted that connection, and you look at their faces when they see the tailors making uniforms, and then they feel that the uniform that has been made is theirs because the measurement has been taken, so they own that uniform. They take good care of that.
Yeah, because they're part of the process. So when you then went to Huma and you saw the 5 kids and you thought, or you saw the situation and you thought, I want this to have an impact on more than just these 5 children, what was the next step? How did you go about growing it to the stage it's in now?
The next step, I instructed the network. I wanted to do it just in Mathare. So through the network of Mathare University Students Network that I run, I instructed them to do a research in all the schools around Mathare, so that we know what is happening in other schools. And what was fun is Huruma was even way better. There is a school that was, the teachers even allowed the students to come with home clothes. Yeah, they were like, it's fine.
Liberal, yeah.
Yeah. So after doing the research, we started with the school, but what I did is I mobilized my network to just donate fabrics. And then we mobilized the community tailors around that school and asked them to volunteer to help us make the uniforms. And I know it's hard to believe, but that was the school that we did most uniforms. That people came with so many fabrics.
Wow.
And we did almost half of the school, the kids got uniforms. Yeah, now from there, now we started creating now channels how we can make it big. And now we started receiving calls from the villages, from other areas, and we are proud today that we've done over 40 schools.
Right, which then means over 4,000,
200
uniforms. So how do you decide which school you go to next?
Now we decide on an area like Kibra, that we want to do Kibra. Then we send our research students, the research team, which are students from JKUAT. So they go to the schools, they walk into classrooms, they write the names of the needy students, then they work closely with the teachers. Now we look at the data from the different schools and we see which one do we prioritize.
Okay, with the students that are involved, from JKUAT, are they doing it pro bono or?
Yes, we have a network of over 1,000 volunteers.
Wow.
And now we have chapters in different universities. So when we were doing Kakamega, we were working with Masinde Muliro chapter. So when we were doing CIA, we were working with Maseno University chapter. So we've created chapters in different universities. And I think for me, it's not just about Ficha Uchi. It's also for those young guys in the universities to start looking at solutions to problems in different communities. Yeah.
So usually that's where a lot of social outreach programs reach a block of sorts, that they don't have that support, they don't have the people rallying behind them, whether it's financially or physically being present. So how did that 1,000 network, how did you form that?
When we started with the few universities in Nairobi, then we started, the request started streaming in, and we said we have to create a room for them. And the best way to create a room is now...
Sorry, request from the students?
Yeah, request from the students.
Oh, wanting to take
join,
part?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's them who requested to take part.
Wow, okay, yeah, so then you started to get the requests and then...
Then now we started launching the chapters, creating awareness, giving them more picture of what we expect from them, and then we replicated the same in different areas. Yeah.
Okay, what are you most proud of when it comes to specifically Ficha Uchi?
I think one is just seeing the kids go to school when, uniform was one of the first pride you have when you're going to school.
That's true.
I remember when you're joining class 1 and you have a new school uniform and you have a bag, there's a drive that makes you want to go to school the next day. But if you're going to school and people are laughing at you in school because of the torches that you have and they have nicknames, it makes you just to go to school for the sake. So I think that is one of the things that I'm proud of, that I know that the kids that we've given uniform, there's a drive in them that they go to school. And I remember a kid in Mathare that was sitting behind because of the torches. And after giving the uniforms, he started now sitting in front because now there's that confidence. Now he feels he belongs to that class. Yeah. So those are the things that makes me, yeah.
I'm curious to know, do you follow through with the students? If you start with the students saying class 2, of course, by the time they're in class 4, it's a completely different size that they need, do you then follow through, or how are you able to sustain?
Yes,
the
we have a
needs?
team that follows through, but also when we're giving the uniforms, we engage the parents too. Okay. Yeah, so that some parents, not that they cannot afford, right, but there's some kind of neglect. They don't know, they don't understand the connection between the uniforms and the children. Mm-hmm. So we encourage the parents to make sure that their kids looks nice, yeah, and what comes with that. To
be involved.
Yes.
Yeah. So what can we expect from Ficha Uchi? What's your goal?
My goal right now is to have more kids get school uniforms. We're working on sustainability, so hopefully we are going to create a tailoring center where we'll empower different communities to volunteer. We teach tailors in the school, but now we dispatch them to different areas to make uniforms. But at the same time, Ficha Uchi has been depending on donations and support, and even companies doing their CSR as Ficha Uchi. But now we want to move a step further, and we want to start seeing if we can sell uniforms to established schools, like Rusinga School,
Hey, I can hook you up there.
Yes.
That's my high school, Rusinga School, Nairobi.
Yeah, they've supported a school.
What?
Yes.
I am a proud alumni of Rusinga. I'm so proud.
Yes, I think Rusinga is the best.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, one of our board members is a teacher from Rusinga.
Oh, that's so, Mrs. Achesa, you are doing amazing in Rusinga. I'm so proud, I'm so proud. So how can people help?
Right now we want to start a drive of getting the tailoring machines. So anybody who can give out the tailoring machines, and I know there are organizations who want to do CSR, but they don't know what to do as a CSR. But we're providing a platform how they can connect with the community, have fun, give, and make a huge difference. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. And where can people find Ficha Uchi if they wanted to find out more about it?
We are active on social media, so both Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
There you go. Yeah. Whoa, Billion, you're doing such an amazing job, and that you have pursued this out of, a sense of calling and purpose. We celebrate you so much. I know it's Wednesday and there's a WCW, but still, MCM right here. Thanks, Billion. We have to take a break, but we'll be back in a moment with yet another individual in our community who's giving back. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everybody. We are talking about giving back, and what we're doing today is honoring some of the people who have gone over and above their call of duty to give back to the communities around them. And my guest for this segment is none other than Francis Amonde, who started Cup of Uji, which is an initiative that feeds 1,500 less privileged school children, allowing them to be more focused on work and be more productive rather than focusing on the hunger, and that's a big part of productivity, isn't it, Francis?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Are you a fan of Uji? I just have to, are you?
Yes, I am.
100%.
I'm not a tea person in the morning.
Yeah. I love a good cup of porridge. Kwanzaa one from Meru. Woo. That's a little sour. It gets me going. So how did this idea come about?
Okay, this idea came about in 2011. I had walked to a school that my late mom was a primary school teacher there. So when I walked into that school, I found most of the pupils there were just sleeping around under the trees. And then I had inquired what the issue was, and I was told that most of them are orphans. So they stay with their grandparents within that same locality, and the grandparents couldn't afford mostly the 3 square meals a day. So you find that they would come in the morning with no breakfast, and most probably they didn't also have supper the previous night. So that is what was contributing to them, they're just sleeping around.
Yeah. So then you decided, I'm going to do something about that.
Yes, I went and thought, I said, what could I personally do with my personal resources? Because I was like, by then I was still in Kappa, so I was thinking of what could I do with what I was saving. And I thought of doing for them lunch, but that was going to be expensive because I was thinking of rice and beans, but that would be so expensive on my side. So I said, and that is when the idea about Uji came to mind, and I said, let me start by doing the Uji, but I would only do for the ECD classes, that is baby class, pre-unit and nursery, because that is what I could afford by then.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And what was that process like? When you then started, was it dipping into your savings? Was it asking friends for help?
Okay, when I started, it was dipping into my savings, but it was cheap at that point because by then we were not using the current flour that we use. I would just go to the market, buy maize, the white one, and then grind and take the unga to the school, you know. So that was basically the starting point, and by then we had like over slightly above 100 children in the ECD section that we were taking care of.
And how much was that coming to on a monthly basis? On
a monthly basis, that would come to like a maximum of like 10,000 shillings, yeah, which was affordable.
So then how did you grow this beyond that point?
Beyond that is that when there was the pressure that was coming from the teachers, they were like, the older pupils are also scrambling for the same porridge with the younger ones.
Yeah.
So they were having a lot of difficult times. So I started thinking of what could I do to make sure that the whole school was included. So that is when I took to social media. I tend to mostly use social media to rally people around courses. So I went to social media, and specifically I used Twitter, and I decided to tweet the president of this country at around 1 a.m. in the night, yes. Because I had seen, like, I think he would be in a position to help.
I think you're right there, Francis. I think he would be in a position to help.
So when I started tweeting, and then, by then the communications guy was handling his communications was Mr. Itumbi. And he got back to me and said, can I have your contact? And then we talked about the Uji thing and what I was doing, plus the contacts of the school board and everything. So from there, at around 2 a.m., then we said, let's see.
You had this conversation at 2 a.m.?
Yes, yes.
While people are sleeping?
Yes, yes.
2 a.m., okay,
yeah.
Wow, okay, go
So
on.
from there is when now we started doing the hashtag Cup of Uji. We had a paybill number, so we did the hashtag Cup of Uji. And I think by around 4 or 5 a.m., we were done, and we had raised a significant amount of money that was able to at least include the whole school.
Wow.
So that is
how much had you raised at that time?
That was over 100,000 shillings.
Between 1 a.m., when you tweeted the president of Kenya, and 5 a.m., you had raised 100,000 shillings.
Yeah.
While people are sleeping.
Yeah. Well.
That's so inspiring. So how did you end up using the 100,000, and did you move on to other schools, or how did you
No, that
scale?
was basically going to make sure that we scale up for that particular school. Okay. So going forward, I would like, if there was a school that was in need of the program, then what we would do is I would mostly use social media now that we had a pay bill number, and just tell people we have something called 10 bob movement, where we just tell guys, just donate 10 shillings, you know. It goes a long way.
Wow. And that means anyone can join.
Can support, yeah.
So who makes up your team? What does your team look like?
Okay, I work with a team of volunteers who are not full-time, because it depends on which area, which school we are working, because we currently have 5 schools. And then they are from different parts of this country. So whenever we have an activity, someone might say, I feel like I'll be free, or I'll be having like some off days, like 5 days or 2 days, so I can go serve Uji in school A or school B. So that is how we've been able to do our stuff.
Wow. What are some of the biggest milestones in the, is it 7 years now? 7 years that you've been running it?
Okay, for the 7 years now, one of the biggest milestones is that in 2014, I was so happy because the school where we had started, it's called Nyatwere Primary School, and we had started the Uji program. What had happened is that in 2014, the KCP academic performance significantly improved because of the Uji. Because in 2013, they had a mean of 244, and then in 2014, they got a mean of 274. So that was quite something huge for us, yeah.
Wow. How does that make you feel? when you hear something like that?
It makes us feel good because you are like, the porridge is having an impact in their lives, because basically the Uji is to make sure that at least they fight short-term hunger. They can be able to concentrate in school, in class, do other activities within the school compound actively, yeah.
There's always ups and downs, and I can only imagine it's the same, if not more difficult, for like a social outreach program. So what are some of the setbacks that you'd say that you faced in those 7 years?
The one that I can single out is where maybe a company promises to donate porridge flour and then they fail, or they tell you, it reaches a point you ask them and they tell you they are now no longer able to purchase for you the porridge flour. So that's so devastating for us. Yeah.
And in those moments, how do you then handle it? Because you still have these children.
Yeah. Now the thing is, I usually have to have a plan B so that when it fails, then at least, because when the Uji program started, I had made a promise that at least in no single day will those kids miss Uji. In no single day should they miss Uji. I will do anything, whether it's about sacrificing my personal resources, then I will go to any length to make sure that they have Uji. Yeah.
Are you working on this full time?
Yes, I'm working.
Wow. So what are your plans for the future? Where do you envision Cup of Uji going?
Cup of Uji, we look forward to we're having a deadline of 2020. So as to have it self-sustainable, where it can stand on its own feet. So we are thinking of coming up with a small restaurant. So we will be using those proceeds to go into supporting Cup of Uji, so that we stop asking people for donations from there. Yeah. And we are hoping also to include, by 2020, we have an ambitious plan of at least reaching out to at least 10,000 children by 2020. So we believe it's possible. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. What advice would you have for someone who's watching and is considering venturing into the world of community service and social enterprise? What tips would you have?
Okay, what I can say is that, one, you have to be very committed, and you have to be very patient, because sometimes your patience can run out and you are like, I'm done with this.
Patient, why?
Because things won't work the way you want them to work always, so there will always be challenges. So you have to be very patient in handling issues, in just solving things, and how you deal with the issues. So you have to be patient, you have to be committed to it, and then you also have to think a lot about praying. It's quite important. It really plays a role, because sometimes the only difference that there is the relationship between you and God, Right. Because some situations force you, you have to now face God, you can't face man. Mm-hmm, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So obviously you are on social media, and that's how you've been able to reach a large audience and make 100,000 shillings in 4 hours in the morning. So how can people support this? How else can people show up for this campaign?
Normally we have the 10 bob movement that we have a pay bill for it, and then we also have our social media pages. Cup of Uji, it's on Instagram, Twitter, it's also on Facebook, so people can get all sorts of information about what we do from there. And normally people also inbox me when they feel like they have porridge flour. They can just inbox and say, I have this porridge flour, can you come pick it up? And then we pick it up.
Thank you, Francis, and not just for being on the show, but also for giving of yourself to the community and for helping children. We celebrate you, and I'm sure you're leaving a legacy right now that is going to have such a great impact. So thank you.
Thank you for having me on the show.
It's a great honor. Yeah. And if you're watching, remember, all you need is a minimum of 10 bob. So literally no reason why you can't support right now. We're going to put all the handles so that you can easily reach the team and support the campaign. We have one more guest, but before we jump into that, we've got to take a break. But we'll be back shortly. Welcome back, everybody. We're at Kingfisher Nest Hotel, and I'm here with the founder of Kalamu Africa, David Helbig. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me here.
Oh, thank you. Our pleasure is all ours. I'm curious to know a little bit more about your childhood and whether you were a studious young fella or you were a joker in school.
No.
Where does it fall?
Well, I think I was taking my books quite serious.
Okay.
But also quite industrious when it comes to performing arts and community activities.
Okay.
Right.
So I guess this is, it's no surprise that you ended up, starting a schools outreach program focused on education and trying to empower young students.
Absolutely. I remember back in the day, there used to be the, Freedom for Hunger walks and, I think helpage to help the elderly, charity runs. And I still do that to date, run charities, do cleanups, just do a lot of community stuff.
So take me to the moment where Kalamu Africa first stirred in you, where that idea first came to you.
So that's a long story. Way back in 2015, I was doing my fellowship in the US. I was at the Chicago Tribune. So I was there over 6 months, beginning March. And then one day, while getting into the newsroom, I saw they had placed a box just right outside the newsroom, and it was labeled, back to school, you can drop all your stationaries here, things that you don't want and things that you have in your locker. So I thought that's interesting, and every day I could see people have dropped pens, notebooks, rulers, all the kind of stuff you pick from events and at press conferences. So I thought, this would be exciting in Kenya. If they can do it in Chicago, why not in Kenya? And then I said, let me zero down to just one item, which I think is greatly misused on one side, and on the other side, there's a group of people who really need it. And that's where Kalamu Initiative was born.
Wow. So tell us a little about the initiative. What is it that you do and why?
So my idea starting this was to collect pens, especially people who just waste pens. So you're at a meeting, you're given a pen, you pick it, you go drop it at your desk.
Oh man.
You're at a workshop, you pick a pen. So stuff like that. And I said, if I could rally these people to just bring the pens together and then find a school and take them, I would have bridged the gap. So I said, let me start with the newsroom. So then I was working at Nation Media, at Business Daily. And I said, I'll rally all my friends. For every press conference they attend, they should collect me 6, 7, 10 pens. And people thought I'm, out of my mind. Yeah. And they were like, really? I said, yes, let's collect these pens. Right. And this is in 2015. So I came back in September and started working on the idea. And my aim then was to have the first delivery January of 2016. Okay. And we started small because people are still a bit hesitant as to whether is this guy crazy, will it work, will it not work. So our very first Kalamu delivery, January 2016, I had 101 pens.
Oh, what? I feel that's symbolic. 101. I feel like it says something. I don't know. How did you feel about that?
Well, if you look at 101 pens against Olympic Primary School has a population of 4,500 pupils. It's the biggest public primary school in Kenya, I think. Wow. I haven't seen any other.
Wow. Yeah, 4,500.
Right.
What is the current situation when it comes to children and stationery and just in general their learning, the learning process? Why is it that you chose pens?
I think a pen is one of the most critical of everything that a learner should have. You can borrow a textbook. You can have one exercise book in which you can decide to use the front for one subject and the back and the mid for different subjects. But if you don't have a pen, you literally are stuck, and as a learner you won't do anything. The teacher would do the explanation, so even if you don't have a textbook, there's a way you can bridge that. But if you don't have a pen, then that becomes a very big challenge. And under the free primary education, so there's some money that's given out to schools, but that money, you know, runs out in operations, trying to top up the number of teachers, you know, and other basic supplies. And so none of it would go to pens. So parents still have to buy pens. And when you look at the sort of parents we are talking about, I mean, you know, 15 shillings, you know, 30 for 2 pens or 45 will be a significant amount of their daily income.
Right. And it allows them essentially to retain whatever it is that they've learned. If there's no way of writing it down, then it for some people, actually, that's how you even memorize. You fully memorize by like being able to write it down, not just listening. That's how you internalize. So it's January 2016. You show up with 101 pens, which at first I thought was symbolic, but once you shared the 4,500 number, that's the number of kids who are in the primary school, what then? Do you go back to the drawing board? Do you say, hold on a minute, let me just rush to a supermarket, I'll be right back? What was the next step?
So I think it was a great challenge, and that's one of the reasons why I chose to start with Olympic Primary School. It's because it's a big school, and I thought if we can achieve Olympic Primary School in Kibera, then this project is scalable and can be taken to many other places. So after that, I thought, well, I need to do more fundraising. I need to bring in more partners. I need to talk to more people. So I set up a Facebook page. I begin rallying people to contribute pens. And then I walk over to Kartasi Industries mid that year, 2016, because one of the other challenges I didn't want was to handle cash.
Okay. Why?
It's normally the beginning of the downfall of very many projects. So I thought, why not have a pay bill number that goes directly to Kartasi Industries, and because they manufacture pens, then they would supply us with the pens against the amount that is contributed. So in June that year, we agreed with Kalamu, with Kartasi, that anyone wishing to, because I met people who said, hey, I mean, we can't collect pens, but we can give you 500 bob, 1,000, you know, 2,000. I said, fantastic. So we had a pay bill number up, and come May, the second term of that year, just had to look at the numbers here. Yeah, we had 1,043 pens.
Wow. Okay, 1,043 pens. Power of social media, rallying people behind you. So how did you then continue to scale? Especially, I mean, like you were saying, one of the biggest problems when it comes to social outreach programs is, one, I think having people rally behind you and being able to sustain. So you have 1,000, but I'm sure your goal is still much bigger. Right. And even though you've grown by, what is that, 100%, 1,000%?
That's like 10 times.
Yeah, 10 times, yeah. So I think that my math isn't, but it's 10 times, that's true. In just a short amount of time, how do you then keep that ongoing?
So I just have to keep going back to my friends and tell them, hey, we need to do this. And so the funny thing is that people say, oh, you're still collecting pens. I thought you delivered last time. And I tell them, we deliver every school term.
They forget. And you know what I realized? Pens are like bobby pins or hair ties or hair bands, you know, for women. Maybe you won't understand this, but all the women will be like, yes. For some reason, you have a pen 1 minute and the next it disappears. I don't know where they fall to, but there's this thing, this hole where all the pens and all the bobby pins and all the hair bands sit. So I can understand why it needs to be a continuous thing. And I'm sure if it's something that, you know, not every child was accustomed to before. I remember getting my first pen and I was like, oh, I'm writing with a grown-up pen? Wow. And so you end up cherishing it, but it's easy to also misplace. And so it needs to be sustained. So how did you do that? How are you doing that?
So I mean, sometimes you sense some form of, donor fatigue, if I may use that term. That, if you ask again and again and again, people tend to slow down. So I have to sort of broaden the base. The other challenge or the other deal that I made for myself is that even if no one contributed to Kalamu, part of the project was that it's my own way of giving back to society. So I would dedicate some of my own income into funding it. But I mean, I'm happy that, we've sustained an average of 1,000 pens every school term since 2016. We just did the September delivery for this term that has just ended, and we had 1,123 pens.
Look at that.
So in total, we've done 9,226 pens.
Look at that.
Since this project started.
All because you saw a box outside that had stationery, and you thought, what would it look like if I brought this back home? That is incredible. So what are your goals? What do you hope for Kalamu Africa?
I would want to get more partners on board, sort of make it more sustainable. There's an interesting story I need to tell you. So just this year, around July, I just got a random email from someone saying, "Hi, we've been collecting pens for you, so please pass by our office and pick them."
Wow.
So every time I get this sort of emails, normally it's 100 pens or 50 or 80, so it's people I just meet somewhere and they tell me, "Oh, you're doing a fantastic job, I collected these pens for you." So come this day, I go over to Mombasa Road to where this person had told me to get to their office. I get in, I ask for the person concerned, and she comes and she tells me, "Hey, here's your box of pens." And in there were 600 pens. So what she did, she had seen this project on Facebook, went back to her company, that's Mask, the shipping line, and told them, since we don't have a CSR project, why don't we adopt this? And she made a box, labeled it Kalamu, sent an email to all staff and said, "We are supporting this project, so get all the pens, from your desk, from your lockers, from your home, and buy a box and just drop it there." So there was a mix of new pens and pens that have been used. And I'm happy to report that the delivery we did in September, we didn't use even a shilling from our reserve fund. They were all pens that were collected by you and me and everyone else.
That's incredible, and it's a testament to how we can all own these projects, and that sure, there's someone who's championing it and then carrying it through, but we can all own it and take it upon ourselves to contribute in whichever small way, whether it's going back to your company, to your homes, to your friends, to your Facebooks and Instagrams, and just trying to rally friends to do something that is greater than just something that we like for ourselves. Thank you so much. Thank you. This has been such an honor. Where can people find Kalamu Africa? How can they be involved?
So you can log on to our website. We're on www.kalamu.or.ke, or you can check us out on Facebook. That will be Kalamu Initiative. Those who want to drop pens can drop us an email or a message on Facebook. And those who want to contribute, we have a pay bill number that goes to Kartasi Industries.
Right, and we'll share the pay bill number actually so that we can all be involved. We can all be involved. Thank you again, David. What an honor. What an honor.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me here.
Wow. Man, this whole show has just really challenged me to think about what it is that I'm doing for my community, and I hope it's done the same for you. There's no excuses. You may not be able to start your own project, but there are many projects that we can all rally behind, like the three we've shared today. For now, I just want us to highlight a woman that has done such a significant thing for her country. And our WCW for the day, well, you remember we recently celebrated Ethiopia's first female president, that's Sahle-Work Zewde. And now we are yet again celebrating Meaza Ashenafi, who has been sworn in as Ethiopia's first female Supreme Court president. Meaza is a prominent rights campaigner, and for that we celebrate. I feel like we need to bow down. Ethiopia, man, you are really testing us. You're showing us where we should be as a world. So thank you as a country, but more so, we celebrate you, Meaza. Now, I'm going to love you and leave you. Thank you once again to Kingfisher Nest Hotel for being our lovely hosts. We'll be back tomorrow, 8 a.m. sharp as usual. Enjoy the rest of your day and all the shows on NTV. Bye.